In our previous episodes, we traced the initial fervor of the First Crusade and the establishment of the Latin East. Today, we examine the brutal decline, the rise of legendary commanders, and the final expulsion of Christian forces from the Levant. The collapse began in 1144 with the fall of the county of Edessa, a strategic disaster that exposed the vulnerabilities of the Crusader States and ignited the Second Crusade, marking the beginning of the end for the Latin presence. This failure to secure Damascus demonstrated that the Crusaders were no longer the unstoppable force they once were, as Muslim unity began to coalesce under the Zengid and later Ayyubid dynasties, systematically challenging the security of the Christian outposts. By 1187, the tide turned decisively at the Battle of Hattin, where Saladin's forces annihilated the combined armies of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, paving the way for the recapture of the Holy City and shattering the Crusader field army. The Third Crusade, led by Richard the Lionheart, managed to secure coastal enclaves like Acre and Jaffa through the 1192 Treaty of Jaffa, but Jerusalem remained firmly under Ayyubid control, leaving the Crusaders with a diminished, coastal-only territory. The Fourth Crusade took a disastrous turn in 1204 when Western forces sacked Constantinople, permanently crippling the Byzantine Empire and removing the primary Christian buffer against Eastern expansion, which ultimately weakened the entire Crusader cause in the Levant. The Fifth and Seventh Crusades, led by Louis IX of France, attempted to strike at the heart of Muslim power in Egypt, but both campaigns ended in total military failure and massive loss of life, depleting European resources and morale. By 1250, the emergence of the Mamluk Sultanate signaled a new, more professionalized era of warfare, as these elite slave soldiers proved far more disciplined than their predecessors, accelerating the expulsion of the Crusaders from their remaining Syrian and Palestinian strongholds. The final chapter unfolded in 1291, when Mamluk Sultan al-Ashraf Khalil launched a massive siege against Acre, the last major Crusader stronghold, resulting in its total destruction and the end of the Latin East as a political entity. Following the fall of Acre, the remaining outposts of Tyre, Sidon, and Beirut were systematically abandoned, forcing the military orders like the Knights Templar and Hospitallers to relocate their operations to the island of Cyprus, ending their presence in the Levant. The geopolitical map of the Levant was completely redrawn, as the region was fully integrated into the Mamluk Sultanate, ending 2 centuries of Latin political presence and shifting the balance of power back to the Islamic heartlands of Egypt and Syria. The civilian impact was profound, with widespread displacement of Christian, Jewish, and Muslim populations across the Levant as the Crusader States ceased to exist as viable political entities, leaving behind a legacy of social upheaval and demographic shifts. Despite the political collapse, the era facilitated a massive cultural exchange, as Mediterranean trade routes controlled by Venice and Genoa introduced Eastern silks, spices, and advanced mathematics to the European continent, fueling the early stages of the Renaissance. Military architecture also evolved significantly during this period, with the Crusaders adopting sophisticated concentric castle designs that influenced European defensive engineering for centuries to come, as seen in the massive fortifications built at Croix de Chevaliers and other sites. Modern historiography often debates whether the Crusades were primarily religious missions or early colonial ventures, yet the historical reality reveals a complex web of shifting alliances, trade, and interfaith diplomacy that defined the interaction between East and West. The legacy of this era persists in the contemporary Mediterranean, where the memory of the Crusades continues to shape regional narratives and international relations between the Middle East and the West, serving as a constant reference point for historical identity. Ultimately, the Crusades serve as a cautionary study in the limits of military expansionism and the inevitable instability of minority-ruled societies in foreign territories, providing a clear lesson on the dangers of ignoring local political and cultural realities. The collapse of the Latin East teaches us that even the most fortified positions cannot withstand the pressure of a unified and determined local power base over the long term, marking the finality of this 2-century conflict. King Baldwin IV, the Leper King, remains a central figure in this era, whose desperate efforts to defend Jerusalem against Saladin highlight the personal tragedy and military struggle that defined the late Kingdom of Jerusalem's final years. The Teutonic Knights, initially a hospital order, became a formidable military force during the later Crusades, eventually shifting their focus to the Baltic region after the loss of their primary strategic objectives in the Levant following the fall of Acre. Frederick II of the Holy Roman Empire achieved the peaceful recovery of Jerusalem in 1229 through the Sixth Crusade, using diplomacy rather than force, which remains one of the most unique and controversial episodes in the entire crusading timeline. This history matters today because it highlights the enduring consequences of religious conflict and the vital importance of understanding the deep, interconnected roots of Mediterranean history that continue to influence our world in the 21st century.